Europe is about to cross a line it once swore it would never touch again. What began as a trade war has turned into something far deeper, a structural fracture between the United States and the European continent. This is no longer about tariffs or percentages, it's about trust, power, and economic survival. Washington hits with its America First agenda, and Brussels responds with a strategy aimed straight at the heart of the U.S. financial system. Its debt. The balance that held the Western world together for nearly a century is breaking from within, and this time the enemy isn't China or Russia. It's Europe. The numbers are only the visible reflection of a silent battle. In less than a year, the tariffs imposed by the Trump administration have shaken Europe's economy with a force even the pessimists didn't expect. Steel, aluminum, and agricultural products now face costs that push thousands of companies to the brink of collapse. German automakers are posting record losses. French and Spanish producers watch wine, oil, and food become so expensive they're no longer viable in the U.S. market. What Trump sold as an industrial revival is turning into a global economic earthquake, one that's hitting American consumers as well. But the most dangerous part isn't measured in exports. It's happening inside Europe's financial institutions. Brussels, Berlin, and Paris have quietly decided to stop trusting the dollar as a safe haven. 4 months, without public announcements or dramatic speeches, European central banks have been reducing their holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds. Every month they sell billions in American debt, not in a panic-triggering dump, but in a controlled, steady bleed designed to pressure Washington without sparking a crisis. Europe is pulling its money out of the system that upholds the dollar's supremacy, and that decision marks a point of no return. This shift is not improvised. Inside the European Commission, officials have been talking for years about strategic autonomy, a phrase that once sounded utopian. Today it anchors an economic doctrine aimed at freeing Europe from Washington's grip. While Trump slaps tariffs on allies and threatens European companies operating in China, the continent is building its own path. The euro is gaining ground in international transactions, especially in energy contracts and intra-EU trade. Germany pays for liquefied gas in euros. France demands Airbus settle in euro terms. Even the most Atlanticist nations, Denmark and Sweden, have paused purchases of U.S. debt. It's a direct message. Europe no longer trusts the United States. Beneath the economics lies something deeper, a psychological break. For decades, Europe accepted its role as the junior partner, trusting Washington to provide stability and protection. But Trump's trade war changed everything. What was once a predictable ally is now seen as a risk. In Brussels, no one talks about saving the transatlantic relationship anymore. The new mantra is clear. Europe must stop being a captive market and become an autonomous center of power. And that shift, driven by technocrats and central bankers, might be the hardest blow to American hegemony. The immediate consequence is severe. U.S. debt becomes more expensive to finance. With every bond Europe sells, interest rates rise and the Treasury must pay more to lure buyers. In a country with over $30 trillion in debt, this isn't a minor issue, it's a systemic threat. For decades, Washington could print dollars and sell debt knowing the world would buy it. That confidence was the true foundation of American power. But when your closest allies start to doubt you, the entire structure trembles. For the first time since 1945, the dollar's aura of invulnerability is fading. Behind this crisis beats something more primal: exhaustion. Europe is tired of financing U.S. deficits while being punished with tariffs and sanctions. Tired of economic rules rewritten every 4 years based on campaign politics. And tired of living under a system that no longer guarantees its stability. European governments don't want to destroy the system. They want to stop being its victims. And they're willing to pay a high price, confronting Washington's commercial wrath and enduring turbulence in exchange for independence. In the United States, the reaction is confusion. Trump did not expect such a coordinated, calculated response. Accustomed to allies who bend, he mistook Europe's silence for weakness. But that silence was strategy. Instead of speeches, Europe chose the language Wall Street truly understands: numbers. Every bond sold, every contract settled in euros, every reserve shifted is a blow that slowly erodes U.S. power. What began as a tariff dispute is morphing into a financial war. The political impact is equally profound. For nearly a century, the transatlantic alliance was the axis of Western economic stability. Washington set the rules and Europe followed. Today, that structure is collapsing. Europe is building its own system, a web of payments and agreements designed to reduce dollar dependence. It's slow, but irreversible. This isn't ideology, it's survival. When an ally begins using economics as a weapon, the only logical response is to build a shield. Meanwhile, the euro strengthens. In recent months, it surpassed the dollar in transaction volume within the EU and is gaining ground in foreign trade. Companies and governments are signing contracts directly in euros, cutting out intermediaries and reducing exposure to U.S. sanctions. A paradigm shift is underway quietly, but with consequences that will reshape global economics. Dollar dominance is eroding step by step, not through collapse but through rational choices made by those who no longer trust the old model. In Washington, some officials are beginning to grasp the scale of the mistake. Treasury analysts warn that if Europe maintains this pace of divestment, financing costs could skyrocket and ignite a crisis of confidence. Trump, in trying to project strength, has achieved the opposite. He pushed America's allies to unite in self-defense. What once was a compact Western bloc under U.S. leadership is now breaking apart. Each country seeks protection from the political volatility of the White House. And the result is a multipolar world where the dollar no longer reigns alone. This shift doesn't mean the immediate end of American power, but it does signal the beginning of a new era. The global economy is entering an unstable balance where multiple currencies compete and mid-sized nations gain leverage. Europe isn't declaring war, it's claiming sovereignty. And in doing so, it's redefining what it means to be a power in the 21st century. Strength is no longer measured only by aircraft carriers or sanctions, but by who controls capital flows and market confidence. Time is running out for Washington. Each week, European banks sell more U.S. debt and sign new energy deals in euros. Each month, the dollar loses another fraction in global trade. Each quarter, another mid-level power joins the de-dollarization wave. A trend once unthinkable is now accelerating in plain sight. If it continues, by 2030 the dollar could lose much of the dominance it held for generations. The road ahead is uncertain but unavoidable. The U.S. could try to reverse the damage through genuine diplomacy, rebuilding trust and eliminating the tariffs that shattered confidence. But doing so would require admitting mistakes, something no campaign-seasoned president is willing to do. If Washington escalates further, more sanctions, more pressure, it will only accelerate capital flight and reinforce Europe's financial independence. The outcome of this power struggle will define the global economy for decades. If Washington refuses to adjust, the age of the dollar as the world's single anchor may end far sooner than expected. If Europe fails to stay united, its autonomy project could collapse before it matures. History is being written right now, without wars, without tanks, but through financial moves that outweigh any army. Europe is saying, enough. The United States still doesn't understand. This is not a trade dispute. It's a battle over the model of power that has ruled the world since World War II. The order built at Bretton Woods is cracking, not because of enemies, but because allies are tired of paying the price of U.S. leadership. Can the U.S. and Europe rebuild trust before the system collapses? Or are we witnessing the birth of a world where the dollar is no longer the center of global finance? Like and subscribe to Critical Point to understand how power reshapes the world.